Ho Chi Minh City, like the rest of Vietnam, has had a fascinating past. From a simple farming culture thousands of years ago to generations of Chinese and then French occupation, from wars and revolution to today's thriving tourism and fast-growing economy. A good overview of its colourful past can be found at this museum. A grand old neoclassical building built in 1885 and once known as Gia Long Palace, the Museum of Ho Chi Minh City is an impressive venue that tells the story of the city through archaeological artefacts, ceramics, old city maps and displays of everyday life. The struggle for Vietnam's independence is also extensively covered, with most of the upper floor devoted to it. Some of the most interesting artefacts can be found throughout the gardens, where various pieces of military hardware are on display.
Now there are some unusual exhibits here. This is one of several helicopters that were seized from enemy forces and used by Vietnam in 1975 to help liberate Cambodia from the genocide of Pol Pot.
Also here, the American-built F-5E jet used by a renegade South Vietnamese pilot to bomb the presidential palace on the 8th of April 1975, shortly before the end of the Vietnam War.
In Ho Chi Minh's historic campaign 1975, this tank was confiscated by the Liberation Forces on the way to liberate Saigon from the Americans. There you go, there are always two sides to history.
If you'd like to learn more about Ho Chi Minh the man and former president of the city, then make your way to the banks of the Saigon River.
The building behind me, known as the Dragon House, was built by the French in 1911 as an administration office. Today, it's the Ho Chi Minh Museum. If you'd like to learn anything about the history of this city, well, this is a good place to start.
The lovely old building is nicknamed the Dragon House and is an old customs house dating back to 1863. This museum explores the life of Ho Chi Minh, and it's claimed that this is where, as a 21-year-old, he left Vietnam from in 1911 after signing on as a galley boy on a French freighter. The museum contains a number of his personal effects and a great variety of historic photos. If you love art, then it's well worth a stop here.
So as you've seen, Saigon has a vivid array of museums. This is yet another one. It's a museum of fine art. So let's take a look around.
The building that houses the museum was originally a mansion of a Chinese businessman during colonial times, Mr. Hoa, the wealthiest man of Saigon at the time. This yellow-white grand colonial-era mansion is a combination of French and Chinese styles and is a popular photo backdrop for weddings. It is a must-see for those who are keen on Vietnamese art and culture. Although the museum itself is not big, its abundant collections focus on preserving and displaying fine artworks typical of Vietnamese people, especially from Ho Chi Minh City and the South. The museum comprises 3 floors of exhibition space and a good selection of contemporary works. While exploring, we caught up with one of our fellow travellers, a pilot with Thailand's Nok Airlines, on his first visit to Saigon.
No, I excited first time for me in Ho Chi Minh, and Vietnam is very rich culture. I think it's interest for Thai travelers.
The Fine Arts Museum is also a popular spot for art lessons for young children. Ho Chi Minh is rich with cultural attractions, but a must-see for both young and old is a traditional Vietnamese water puppet show. There are several such shows that perform daily in Ho Chi Minh City. Originating in the sodden rice paddies of the Red River Delta in North Vietnam, the unique water puppet performances depict the culture, traditions, and folklore of Vietnamese life. The tradition is believed to date back as far as the 11th century. The puppets are made out of wood and then lacquered. The colourful shows are performed in a waist-deep pool. A large rod supports and controls the puppet under the water and is cleverly manipulated by the puppeteers, who are normally hidden behind a screen. As a result, the puppets appear to be moving over the water. In the past, when the rice fields would flood, the villagers would often entertain each other using this form of puppet play. The puppet show is accompanied by live old-fashioned music played on authentic instruments, with the musicians in view at the side of the stage. Shows are performed entirely in Vietnamese, but the puppet gestures and storylines are obvious enough to keep the audience enthralled. You'll also get to see the wet puppeteers at the end of the show.